Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Hammer Podcast. Today is February 26, 2024, and I'm speaking with Margaret. Margaret, uh, you produced a documentary, or did you produced it?
Yeah, I did everything.
Did everything?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had like two other people help me throughout the process. So yeah.
And it's called We Warn Them, Freedom Village.
Yes.
Okay. The link to that podcast will be in the description. Okay. So people can go and watch that. Now, you said, where is Freedom Village located? Or where was it located?
Yeah, Freedom Village was located in Lakemont, New York. For people
Lakemont.
familiar with the area, it's right on Seneca Lake, which is one of the five Finger Lakes, and it's the closest town is Watkins Glen.
Right. Okay. Because as I was listening to the documentary, it was very familiar when it comes to other troubled teen homes. Like actually, two of them that are in New York. You have
Yeah.
Summit School in Nyack, New York. You have the Family Foundation School in Hancock, New York. Also, Agape, which is in Missouri. The Rebecca Home in Corpus Christi, Texas. They were also in Florida, and it seems like every story is the same: abuse, torture, degrading. Your self-esteem just goes right down the drain.
Yeah.
There,
And in terms of like the history, Freedom Village is actually linked to Agape and to the Rebecca schools. In
really,
it, yeah, because so in the like troubled teen industry, I feel like there's secular programs and then there's religious programs.
right?
And
There are.
they both have different origins, which
Okay.
and I feel like the religious one isn't as talked about. But yeah, I get into this in episode 3, which explains the history.
Mhm.
But all of them were started by Lester Roloff, who was a preacher based in Corpus Christi. Yeah.
I'm originally from Corpus Christi, Texas. I went to his school. I am very familiar with Lester Roloff.
Oh, okay. So from my research and from my understanding,
Uh-huh.
Lester Roloff essentially created the business model for the religious troubled teen programs.
Right, with the Rebecca Home.
Yes, yeah. And Fletcher Brothers, who was the owner of Freedom Village, has direct ties to Lester Roloff. And in terms of how the program worked, it was the same model.
So this school was Baptist affiliated?
IFB, Independent Fundamentalist
All
Baptist.
right. Because I was reading an article on the closing of this school, and they said something about evangelical, which is a completely different um, part of religion.
Yeah.
Baptists and evangelicals not the same.
Yeah. From my understanding, this was IFB. So a more of an extreme version, I feel like, of both.
Right. They emulate Lester Roloff's teachings and the way he ran the schools.
Yeah.
Actually, he probably didn't run the schools. He had his cronies do it, his fellow perverts and drug users
Yeah.
do it. So, but hey, as long as you love Jesus, you're good.
Yes. Yeah. Just
That's
I
how
feel
it
like
goes.
that similar pattern of just like these narcissists that get into positions of power and just take it to like the next level of abuse. I mean, this guy Fletcher Brothers, like really extreme stuff in terms of like yelling at kids, hitting kids, and even the way that he just viewed himself as God, as this like above all person that trickled down into the lifestyle that these kids were forced to live.
Right. And as far as the pattern, like you were saying, um, when I was listening to the documentary, they were talking about having to carry wood
Yeah.
back and forth. In Agape, they had to carry rocks from one area to another for no reason, just to do it, and then pick it up, take it back. So
Yeah, I mean that was like the first thing that my friend had told me because I hadn't heard about the troubled teen industry before I started researching this. So this was like I went deep down the rabbit hole, but that was the first thing that really caught me off guard, because I was like, oh, you guys were hauling wood, to go build something. And they were like, no, we were literally just hauling wood to haul wood for 4 hours at a time. It was like just a mind numbing activity to pretty much make you so pissed off, like that it was the lowest level of punishments. There were levels, and so
Right.
hauling wood was the punishment for no levels, so they
No
tried to
level.
make it
Yeah.
no level. Yeah, they tried to make it the worst thing possible so that you would be self-motivated to rise in the ranks.
Right. From what I also heard from your documentary is, which, by the way, people that are watching this, go watch it. I've gone through two of them. Unbelievable. It's a great documentary, Margaret.
Thank
It's,
you.
it's
Thank you.
well produced.
It is an audio documentary. There's no
Right.
visuals, but
Yeah, but you said something about sorry about the audio quality. The audio quality was fine. I could
oh,
understand. I could understand everything that they were saying, and they were talking about how these places do not teach them the skills they need when they get out in the real world. They basically, like they were saying, they teach them how to be servants there, so they can rise up in the ranks, like you said, and they make them stay longer. Now, I'm not exactly sure how much they were paying for this place. I'm sure it was in the thousands.
yeah, I mean, I feel like there were different streams of income, right? Like my friend that was the first one that I interviewed, he was sent there by the courts. So that's something I still don't fully understand, and I feel like
Okay.
that's on purpose. Is that the judge, he had gotten in trouble and he had had the choice to go to juvie or to go to Freedom Village, and so that was paid for, I think, by the government. However, there were also other people that their parents were paying. And that is how they got a lot of their income. They also
Right.
had a program called Adopt a Teen, which is essentially they would have the kids go on and share their sob stories unconsensually, either on Fletcher Brothers TV show when he had a TV show, or most recently on his radio show, which he still produces now. And it's kind of similar to like the Adopt a Highway program. Like they would say,
Right.
hey, if you want to sponsor this kid, send money to Freedom Village, and you can help pay for their clothing or for their food or for whatever. But the kids would never actually get the money. It was all
Right.
just going into Fletcher's pocket. And one kid told me he had 16 adopt-a-teen parents.
That sounds a lot like Agape. Wow. I mean, almost mirror images of each other.
Yeah, and it's funny. So I interviewed a whole range of people. I had interviews with about 30 people from the very beginning in 1981 all the way up to 2019 when it closed down. And the kid in 2019, when I was interviewing him, he told me that he had friends from Agape. And I was like, what? And he was like, oh yeah, the program that they were at before was Agape. And that's why I consider this a human trafficking issue. Because tell me why a kid in Missouri is being sent across multiple state lines to
Right.
this random ass town in New York. Like
Yeah.
it's a network, and they're moving kids based off of money.
Yeah. These guys are slippery eels. Just when you think you've closed them down, they mind their way into another cavern and they keep it going. They move to another state. They change the name. I know the Rebecca home did that many times. They also had a place called Bethesda, which was for pregnant women, and so it didn't
There was
matter.
also this at Freedom Village. It was called the Ruth Home,
Uh-huh.
where they took in pregnant women. And this is actually not in the podcast, but after the podcast came out, people had reached out to me and I connected. The Ruth Home was something that always remained mysterious, because it was just more of a secret. It was smaller. But a girl, actually a woman now, reached out to me, and we had a phone conversation, and she went to Freedom Village when she was pregnant, and she ended up delivering the baby while she was at Freedom Village. She ended up keeping the baby. However, when she was there, they paired her with an adopt-a-teen woman who pretty much would come and take her on walks, and was trying to convince her to give away the baby. She was saying, "Are you really going to be a good mother? Is this really the best thing for you?" And she was explaining this to me on the phone, and she was like, "I really think they were trying to convince me to give up the baby, and eventually to this woman."
Well, yeah, they need another Christian. Raise them up in the church.
Right.
Yeah, that's what they do. They adopt them out to Christian families who probably go to the same church they do.
Right.
And
another strange pattern is over half the people I spoke to were adopted. That were sent to Freedom Village. So that was a surprising pattern for me, was just the amount of kids that were adopted and then ended up being sent away.
Right. Is there that girl you were talking to? Does she still have her baby?
Yeah.
Good. Because a lot of the girls at Rebecca back in the 70s had their babies taken away. Some of them are still looking for them to this day.
Yeah.
So it's really sad. And you would think, well, they're Christian churches. They're not doing that. And that's like, and also with the monitoring of the phone calls and the letters and all that stuff. That's a typical Christian troubled teen home tactic right there. So, and if the kids come in and they're defiant, you break them. You break them. You break their spirit. You break their will, and you make them little drones, little robots.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what the no level did right upon coming in. Just really beating people down, so that you can build them back up. And in episode 4, it's all about cults, and I really got into understand like what is a cult, right? Because I feel like we use that term loosely in society, but it's like, no, like, what is a cult? And I feel like that was one of the biggest things for me, was that breaking down of a person and then building them back into whatever you want. And then the financial exploitation on top of that.
Yeah. A lot of places, even like Roloff School, he said that he relied on donations. I don't believe that for a second. I know he was making, I know his enterprise, it was Roloff Evangelistic Enterprises. He was making 12, 18 million a year. But when you think about it in years, this was the 1970s. So this man was raking in the money, while his staff was living in small trailers.
I mean, so was Fletcher Brothers. I mean, literally the same stories. This man, I talked to a former staff member. This was actually in the cult episode, and she was actually born on the property. So she was raised in Freedom Village, and she said that one year Fletcher just took their whole family to Disney World, like just casually took. Meanwhile, there was no hot water on the Freedom Village campus. All the kids were forced to take cold showers. So I'm like, you can't pay a heating bill, but you can take staff members' family to Disney World? You can have multiple cars, but most of the food that you're serving is moldy? Like, make it make sense. It doesn't.
You can't. Yeah, you can't make it make sense. But, some of those people are just so brainwashed, they just don't believe what the kids say, This man's a parent. And when I heard Fletcher Brothers, I'm thinking, oh God, there's two of them. No, his name is actually Fletcher Brothers. Okay, I thought it was the Fletcher Brothers. I'm like, Jesus. There's two of them.
I mean, he does have a son. He does have a son. Yeah, Jeremy Brothers, who was supposed to kind of take on, the next role of things, but thankfully, and this is what I get into the last episode, the 6th episode, and how this bleeds into We Warn Them, which, we're a nonprofit now, fighting against the troubled teen industry and institutional abuse, is when they when they were trying to reopen in South Carolina in 2019, a group of survivors who had been organizing on Facebook took it in person and organized a town hall meeting in South Carolina and educated the local community, shared testimonies, had a 10-page printout document of all the abuses listed. And they got the community so pissed off that it never ended up opening in South Carolina because of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Weren't they going to pair up with Hannah Grace Holmes or something? Hannah Grace Holmes. Yes.
And they were gonna change the name to Victory Village, I'm pretty sure.
Why don't they just call it Child Abuse Central? I mean, little truth in advertising,
Yeah.
But yeah, there's just the only way that they're going to stop these places is when the government gets involved and stops them. I mean, because they're letting them do it. They could go to a state that doesn't require them to have a license, and they can put themselves out in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
And the abuse begins.
Yeah. Which I mean, I think it's going to be a long process, but that's, I stand in support, and so does We Warn Them and many other peoples with the SICA Act that's trying to be passed, which is the federal bill Stop Institutional Child Abuse Act that Paris Hilton spearheaded. But I feel like that is a great first step because it's essentially going to build and require a national database for all of these programs. Because part of the problem is, they, like you said, like go to a different state, change names, but the staff stays the same, but there's no way to track this information.
Right.
And even for people that are doing academic and professional research, there's nothing to reference, right? So that would be a great first step. And we're hoping this bill gets passed. We're going to find out, I think, within the next month, hopefully a couple months. It's a bipartisan bill. There's sponsors on both sides. But that would start building that database so that at least there's information out there. Because right now it's, as you know, like a private, unregulated industry.
Sure. And I'm sure that in a lot of places they will get workers with no background check, and they end up being sex offenders or something like that,
Yeah, they really prey on vulnerable people. I remember meeting one guy because I went up there, into the town of Watkins Glen, and as the best investigators do, hit up the local dive bar, hit up the local diner, and just started talking to folks. And I met this one guy, and he turned around and he was like, "Wait, what are you talking about?" And I was like, "Oh, Freedom Village." And he was like, "Oh, that guy stole $4,000 from me." And I was like, what do you mean?" And he was like, "Well, I'm a truck driver and I haul hay." And he said that he had this school for troubled teens and with all these horses. And so they needed some hay. And so he did it, and he didn't get the payment beforehand and never got the payment, but did the job. But he was like, for me, he was like, I genuinely thought that they were helping these kids. And so he's like, I didn't really press him for the money, at first, because he just thought, the marketing is brilliant. They really, on paper, these places, they make it look good.
Oh yeah. And when you go to the websites, they take pictures of the kids when they're smiling and they're, real happy and everything and posing for the camera, but that's not how it is behind the scenes.
Yeah.
It's just like you said, it's a brilliant marketing gimmick. It's oh my goodness, those guys. Oh, it just infuriates you sometimes, a lot of these kids that just go through there, and some of them maybe do need some discipline. Some, not all of them. Some just are acting like teenagers.
Right.
That's it.
I really feel like there's no reason, no matter a child's behavior, to be sent across multiple state lines to receive care. Like, I'm like, if you are in a place that you do need to receive care, I feel like there is something local,
Yeah.
that could be more beneficial. Like it's absolutely insane how they're flying kids. I mean, the founder of We Warn Them, like she was sent there to cover up child abuse, and they flew her from California to New York on a plane. What?
Hmm. The founder of We Warned Them was with a troubled teen home at one time?
Yeah, so both of the founders of We Warn Them were survivors of Freedom Village.
Okay.
And that's how
Okay.
We Warn Them started, was they organized that town hall meeting in South Carolina in 2019. And they got Freedom Village shut down through doing this boots on the ground advocacy work. And after they got Freedom Village shut down, they were like, we need to keep doing this because it's working. And so
Right.
that they formed an official group. And then at that time, I had just started my research, and then I helped launch We Warn Them in 2021. So I had gotten connected through them just because I was trying to figure out what had happened, what was going on. And yeah, they run she runs the Freedom Village Truth Facebook group, which has over 600 members now, which is
Yeah.
super cool.
Yeah. I know Agape shut down now.
Yeah.
So, but I think they changed their name. I think they may have changed their name. I don't think they're in that area anymore. I think they had to basically
Yeah.
start selling off their property because of all the lawsuits that were going on.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, when you're knocking kids on the ground and punching them and everything, there's no need for that. No need for that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's abuse right there. And it's amazing. I'm amazed that none of them went to jail.
I
No?
mean, it's like, I wish I could say I was shocked, but the deeper that you go in and you understand this, I mean, these guys are, they're covered by this, and they've been working with David Gibbs Jr., who works with the CLA, the Christian Lawyers Association.
Yeah.
So these folks have the support to protect themselves. Um, yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
it's like when you're working with a organization that's been covering abuse up for years,
Decades. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a shame because, um, the main guy, the epicenter to all this, Lester Roloff, you know, he should have been prosecuted, but he died in a plane crash. So whatever, you know. And then his cohort, Wiley Cameron. I don't know if you read about him, how he
Yeah.
died. Yeah,
No. How did he die?
uh, he was welding, and the welder arced on his wedding ring and set him on fire. Set his clothes on fire. He got burned like 80% of his body. I knew his wife would always be the death of him. She was a mean.
Karma's a bitch.
She's an evil woman. Faye Cameron was an evil woman. And I've had more horror stories than I've had good. I mean, I've had people come up and talk about how Rebecca helped them. They also had the Anchor Home, the Lighthouse, the City of Refuge, all men's homes, and a lot of people have talked to me and said, "Hey, I was saved, and that place helped me." So it's not all bad, but it's more bad than good.
Yeah. And honestly, I'll say this about Freedom Village. I mean, even if you go through on YouTube and look up videos on Freedom Village, there's comments from people saying, hey, I had a great experience.
Yeah.
Which is valid,
Yeah.
But I think you got to look at the majority, and they're in the minority in this case. And I mean, for me, it was interviewing people from the very beginning in the 80s, in the 90s, in the early 2000s, and then the late 2000s, and seeing the patterns of the same stories, and then hearing how they're all struggling with PTSD, with nightmares, dealing with these intense anxiety, depression. It's like you look at the aftermath of these things and they're all rooted in the same core memory, the traumatizing things that happened at Freedom Village. Like you can't deny that.
Have you as far as like the suicide rate among teens who went to troubled teen homes, have you checked statistics on that or anything?
I don't know statistics, but I do know people that have died from suicide that went to Freedom Village.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to get numbers on this thing. Even researching, I mean, that was a big motivation for me to even do this project, was because I just was like, we need more things in the archive. Like we need more stories out here, which is why I totally fuck with your podcast here, because you are creating like a huge database of long form survivor stories, which I think is needed, because you go to Google and it's like some places are reported on, but I mean, I feel like the most credible source a lot of times is like Reddit, because there's like, seriously though,
Yeah.
because it's like
Yeah.
people are speaking openly and honestly, and there's, you know, huge amounts of stories. But in terms of doing research, it's really difficult because, like I said before, there's not even a national database. Like, what even is the troubled teen industry? You know, like we have a definition of it now, but from a academic perspective, there's not really a clear guideline, you know?
Right. And a lot of these places weren't even accredited. Speaking of accredited, they weren't even accredited when it came to their schooling. They used the ACE program, which is just complete dog shit. You know, some people couldn't even get into the high school they were after they left. They couldn't get into the high school because, or they had to start ninth grade again because
Yeah, I mean,
the
my
credits
friend's
never transferred.
my friend is struggling with that right now. Like he was like, yeah, like I'm gonna try and get my GED, and I was like, yeah, bro, do it. But it's like that's so it pisses me off, because it's like they should have gotten at least a high school diploma,
Right.
you know, from this place. And now they're out in the real world dealing with real life shit, and they gotta backtrack and try and get a GED because they didn't get it when they were at Freedom Village. And the thing with the ACE program too is why I think this is so culty is that there's only specific colleges that accept
Right.
the ACE diploma. It's like the
Chris-
Bob's Jones University, right?
Tech
So it's like they're
Tech Isles, yeah.
right. So they're purposely trying to funnel these kids into these specific places or the military.
Maybe not the military, because the military won't accept GEDs, at least as far as I know. Only high school diplomas. They used to accept GEDs at one time. I don't think they do anymore. I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah,
So.
I would have to look that up too. I do know that like not most of the kids, but I would say like 1/3 of the people that I interviewed ended up going to the military.
Well,
military or prison.
Yeah.
Which is I mean, you listen to episode 2, which is kind of what I get into with like institutionalization, right? It's like these environments that are super strict, obedient institutions. It's like you make it so that that kid, that's their normal, so that they can thrive in the prison or in military. And I feel like they do that on purpose.
They get institutionalized, basically. It's like a prisoner who goes to jail for 30 years. That's all he knows. That's all he's been. That's all he's done. And he comes out into the real world, and it's like, okay, what do I do? You know, they're just completely lost because they've been doing the same thing over and over and over again. Yeah, it's quite a shock.
And they do that.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say they
do
that so that they can get staff. Like a lot of the people I also spoke with ended up going there as teenagers and then coming back as staff. And a lot of them just felt like, well, I know that I'm going to be accepted here and I know what to expect here. and a lot of them didn't unfortunately have support at home. And then you have, you know, Freedom Village that's like, no, please come back. Like, we love you. God loves you here. You know, they make it so enticing. It's
Right.
like, you can't even, you know, blame them.
All those temptations out there, you know, you don't want to be around that. You stay over here with, you know, where Jesus can guide you. I
Right.
saw, I was listening, when I was listening to the second part, they were talking about, well, maybe it was the first part, about a brown paper bag, the color,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
talking about no mixing of the races.
Yeah. Yeah. The paper, brown paper bag test. Yeah. It was essentially you could not date someone that was of opposite shade of you.
You know, I've met some real dark white people, you know, that have got really dark suntans.
I
So,
mean,
yeah, that's ridiculous. That's just ridiculous. You know, you should be with the person that you love or the person that you like, no matter what
yeah,
color they are. It doesn't matter. So,
exactly.
what did anybody talk to you about, or with the people that you interviewed, or maybe it's in the other episodes that I haven't watched or listened to yet, as far as homosexuality, um, as far as you know, gay people there, they were were they treated worse, or they just
Yeah.
kind of kept it quiet so nobody would know?
Yeah, 100%. Actually, in the fifth episode, I interviewed this woman named Monica. And the fifth episode is more about the long term aftermath. My
Okay.
girlfriend's a psychologist. And so we really dive into what that looks like, what that means. But Monica's story at Freedom Village is she's a lesbian and she came into Freedom Village like looking like a lesbian. And she was like, listen, I'm not going to change, you know? And I think
Yeah.
a lot of girls there were in the closet just to frankly protect themselves. But Monica was different in that case, in that she was just like, I am who I am. And within the first month of her being there, they tried to have her do a cuddle session with another woman, which you think about, like, that doesn't even make sense. But
Yeah.
they were saying that you are gay because you did not receive love from your mother. So we're going to have a grown woman come in and spoon you. So, and that's traumatizing in itself, because it's like, who is this random ass woman? You
Yeah.
know, that I'm like now being that is forcing herself upon me. But also just like, I feel like the invalidation of queerness. Like, I don't think queerness is something that is because of a trauma. You know, it's just like we're born this way. Um, so just that other psychological element, you know, of
Mhm.
trying to unlearn your queerness, because as in it's something that you can change.
Well, they obviously seem to think so.
Right. And then, I mean, I just want to point out the ironic part of that. Most of the, a lot, I don't know the statistics, but a lot of the rapes that were happening there were meant male on boys.
That is not surprising. I have heard a lot about that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I just think that in
They're pro-
itself,
a
oh,
lot
go
of them are
ahead.
probably a lot of them are probably closeted homosexuals.
That's what I theorize. Um, And I just think that's a testimony, you know, to like, this is what happens when we don't let people express themselves, when we don't let people allow themselves to accept their own sexuality. Is that this woman in episode 5 describes, I love the way that she describes it. She says, when you suppress something, it begins to twerk and contort into something that is so ugly and evil. And then when it comes out in this perverted way
Right.
of raping children.
Yeah. What was the age limit like as far as the youngest person there? Was it like 10, 11?
There's actually a sexual abuse case that's still open right now in New York State, and she filed the claim when she was 10 years old. Well, I mean, she didn't file it when she was 10, but the abuse happened to her at Freedom Village when she was 10 years old.
By one of the staff.
Yeah.
Was it a male or a female?
I'm not sure. I would have to
You're
go.
not sure?
I didn't interview her. This is just one of the cases that are open right now.
Okay. Yeah. Because I know there was like at Agape, there was even the staff were sleeping with the boys and the girls both. You know, because there were some of the staff's wives were there, and some of them were, doing it too. So.
Yeah. One of the cases that was open, that is open right now, and I go into this in episode 3, Mr. J is what they call him. He was an adopted teen an adopted teen sponsor that works for the Heritage Foundation. So we're talking like high level government, and he would come in, and he wasn't even an official staff member, but he would essentially come in and get his pick of whoever he wanted to hang out with. Which is another reason why I, consider this trafficking, is because when you have, this is sex trafficking to a degree, when you have these unsupervised officials coming in and pretty much getting to choose whoever they want to abuse.
Right. But when they take the kids across state lines, I'm sure they have to get the parents' permission before they ship them off to another school.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, my friend Kayla, who works with us in We Warn Them, she was a foster care kid. And so she didn't really, they were moving her, and there was no one that they kind of had to report back to. And that's another, there's a couple different demographics that are targeted within the troubled teen industry. I think we most often hear of the wealthier kids that get sent there by their parents for bad behavior, like Paris Hilton and some people that I also interviewed at Freedom Village. But I think another demographic that isn't talked about as much is the foster care kids, who they're being sent there because, they're 16, 17, the likelihood of getting a foster parent is lower. They need some place to house the kids before they age out of the system. So here's the troubled teen industry that's saying, hey, we need to fill beds. Why don't you send them here? And she was sent, my friend Kayla, to 5 different programs in 5 different states.
Yeah, it sounds like somebody I interviewed as well. She was at like 4 or 5 homes. Yeah, the foster care is unfortunate because, like I said, there's no parent there, so basically you're the state's property until you turn of age. So, yeah, that's a little more difficult to do. And like you said, a lot of them do. I would consider it trafficking. I mean, I'm not sure the courts would, but it's just pretty obvious. You could tell what their intentions are.
Right.
To get rich, to fulfill their desires, whatever they are, whether it be, financial or sexual or whatever, and a lot of them are probably narcissists. They are sociopaths who just like to see people get hurt, and they like to hurt people.
I would argue they're the troubled ones.
Yeah. I would say it's a mental disorder. Sure.
100%. Yeah.
But, to prove it, that's a different story. But,
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of the times, I'm always thinking like, how do we make the change? Right? Like what can we actually do? And I feel like the step 1 is awareness. I got really passionate about this because when I went back home, like I was saying, I lived in New York City. I found out about this in New York City. And then I went back to Rochester, where I'm from, and just talking to people, and nobody knew about it. and it was essentially happening in our own backyards. So I feel like that's the first step, is to even let people know what's going on. And then also from a staff perspective too. I mean, a lot of the kids that I went to high school with ended up going to a state university. And then they get out of college, they're looking for entry-level jobs. You know, they have good hearts, they want to work with kids, you know, and on paper, this looks super good. And so then you get a whole nother, you know, crew of people volunteering themselves to go work in these programs. And I feel like this is where the awareness comes in, right? Is like, what are the red flags? What are the red flags to look into when you're applying for a job or trying to send your kid away?
It seems like when they first get there and they start working for a while, it's like it's good. But as soon as they get behind the scenes and they really see what's going on, a lot of them just leave and say, you know, I'm not going to deal with this. They should contact the authorities. I mean, I think there should be something that they should do before they leave and let them know what's going on. That's what they did at Agape. A lot of the people that left, the staff members, you know, contacted the authorities or contacted somebody higher ups to figure out what we could do, because they were telling there's abuse going on, but they wouldn't let them in. That's the problem. You know, it's private property. You know, and like you said, a lot of these go under the radar because they're secluded. They're out in areas that no one would probably go to.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And you have acres and acres and acres of land, so all around you, so nobody knows it's there. You know, so there's some places that will go into, say, South Carolina or Florida, and they'll just set up shop. And they don't have to tell the state government that they're there, because you don't have to have a license to run these places. So they start running these things, and nobody knows they're there until somebody comes out and says, you know, that was abused, or I was, you know, sexually assaulted or whatever. Then that's when it comes out, and it turns out that most of the time the place has been there for years before anything like that happens. Because sometimes people are afraid to come out. There's a lot of, like, some of the Rebecca girls for the 70s. None of them came out until now, because the fear that they put into these people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. But I 100%. And that's why, you know, I felt compelled to come out and start creating and talking about this, is because I feel like, as someone that's not a survivor, I can talk about this more openly and not get triggered every time I talk about it. And right. I try to encourage other people that aren't directly connected to this to still use their voice and speak up and question, because that's how we can make it, I feel like, easier for people that are survivors of this place. And this is not even in the troubled teen industry. I feel like with any sort of social justice issue,
sure,
like we need the allies in order to make that a little bit easier, and for people that do want to come out to have a bit of a support network.
Well, and also it does happen in some of the state-run homes as well.
Yeah,
but it's not as prevalent as it is in the private Christian ones, because there's no one to be held accountable. You know, there's nobody there to go over there and say, hey, this is, you know, you're doing this and this, you need to stop. There's nobody there to do that. So they just continue doing what they're doing, unnoticed by everybody else.
And it's, you know, with the private ones, it's hard to believe. Like, a lot of these tactics are like weird and strange. Like the you know, this hauling wood, like, it's almost, you hear it and it's like hard to believe. It sounds almost, a lot of the things that go on almost sound conspiratorial until you're actually sitting in front of someone that's like, dude, this happened to me. And why would they lie about that? You know? Yeah.
The thing is, I've had a couple of guys that were at Agape that were years apart. I mean, one was in the 90s and one was in, you know, 2010 or 2015. And their stories are almost identical.
Yeah.
So, and they never met each other. So to
Same
say
thing
that they're
with my son.
lying, right?
Yeah.
To say that they're lying, I don't believe that. I think they're telling the truth.
Yeah. But that's amazing. I feel like in terms of like archiving, that's also what's needed, is to have these stories recorded, to have them so that you can literally prove it to someone else, or if it goes to court, or hopefully years to come, when more legislation is passed, we have a body of work that we can present to legislators. And it's like, you can't say that this is not true now.
Right. Or if a parent wants to send their kid there, it's not like it was in the 80s where we didn't have no internet. So now they could go and they could research the place. Let's say they research Agape, they research Freedom Village, and they see all these videos of people being abused. They may have saved that kid.
Yeah. I feel like I love when people leave the Google reviews, the Yelp reviews on some. You're laughing because I know some of them are like absurd, but it's
Oh yeah.
that I love it. That's awesome. It's like, yeah, go leave a 1 freaking 0-star review, because that way it's like, even if the parent doesn't do the due diligence of Googling a place, at least when they go to put it into maps, maybe they'll accidentally see some of those reviews. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's it's a long battle. You know what I mean? This has been going, like you said, since Lester Roloff in the 60s. And it doesn't show any sign of stopping until somebody comes up with some way of, like, either by legislation or state
Yeah, I mean,
governments
I'm curious, what do you think? Like, what does change look like for you right now?
to hold them accountable. I mean, when a let's say a Christian, for example, that Fletcher guy, Fletcher Brothers, is that his name? Let's say he goes to Florida, and Florida just passed a new law saying, hey, if you're going to open up some sort of religious or troubled teen home or whatever, you need to uh, let us know that you're there, and we should
Mm,
be able to make monthly visits to check the place out to make sure everybody's okay. And I guarantee you, if they did that, there would be no Christian troubled teen homes in that state, because they don't want anybody in there to see what they're doing.
who would be doing that check though? Like, I guess that's my question. Like, how do you is that state legislation? Is that
Human
federal?
resources, it would be
Human
state.
state?
I think they should vary by state, sure. Because
Yeah.
there's some states like Missouri who don't have any regulations like that. You can just come in and set up shop and you're good. You need to register with the state government and say, I'm here, and then they give you a list of rules of what needs to be done in order to have this operation, and follow it. And if you don't, you're gone.
Yeah.
Get out. And if they do find out that there is abuse going on, prosecute the people that are abusing.
Yeah.
But they're not doing that.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a way to severely limit where they could be.
Totally. I feel like there's also like a societal shift that needs to happen in how we allow ourselves to even talk about troubled teens. Like, I feel like there's such a stigma around having a child that's dealing with mental health issues that a lot of the times parents feel the need to keep that a secret and just like send the kid away and hope they get better.
Right.
Instead of opening up to their local community and being like, yo, I got a kid that's struggling, are there other parents that are dealing with this? Are there other places within that community that we can go to? Because yeah, I mean, it's like
a troubled teen. When you say troubled teen, that is a very wide spectrum.
right.
It could be somebody who just is misbehaving, all the way up to somebody who's mentally handicapped, I guess I'd say that, it was severely troubled in their
Yeah.
mentally. So it's just a wide spectrum. And sometimes some of those kids that go to those troubled teen homes probably ran away. I mean, what teenager hasn't either threatened to run away or ran away to their friend's house and come back hours later?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just something kids go through. I went through it when I was a teenager, you know?
Hell yeah.
But I didn't need to be sent to a home where I was tortured and abused, you know?
And I feel like
as you get older, you get over it, you know? You become an adult. You leave all that other stuff behind, and it's a totally different life. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I was just going to say, I feel like that's also how they increase their profits, is by having the term troubled teen be so open, so that you can now market to parents that have a kid that smoked weed one time, but the parents are like uber religious and think marijuana is like the most deadliest sin. So you can cater to them, but then you can also cater to kids that are more, dealing with psychological issues, schizophrenia or other things. Or unfortunately, there was a lot of kids that were autistic that were being sent here when they should have been receiving care for autism, like not trying to cure the autism, but being in an environment where
they can control it.
Or just like autistic kids learn differently. Like they should be allowed to be in environments with people that are educated about autism so that they can create learning environments that are good for them, instead of seeing that as a trouble. And so then you're just like punishing the kid for how their brain works.
Yeah. You take them there so they can learn to control it, to live somewhat of a normal life with what they have.
Yeah, so, just coping.
Right. But you need licensed experienced people for that. Not some schmuck they get off the street who says, "Praise Jesus, can I be in your church, in your club?" and they bring them over to help at the school. You know what I mean? That's the problem. They don't vet the help.
Right. Yeah. And I also, with that term troubled teen, I actually, an activist friend of mine, I should be better about this. We say TTI, right? Troubled teen industry. And she's like, no, it needs to be teen treatment industry. And I was like, you know what? I actually like that, because it really isn't a troubled teen. Like by saying troubled teen, it's almost putting more of the focus on the teenager's behavior. But in reality, that's not the problem with this industry. The problem is the exploitation that's happening, is the teen treatment, and that it's not treatment, it's abuse. And so I like that flip of terminology to put the focus more on the people that are actually causing the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. They're predators is what they are. They're predators. They prey on the weak. They prey on the people that, like I said, a lot of these pastors, they gain the trust of their congregation up to the point where the pastor could do no wrong. I mean, the pastor could, like a young girl could say the pastor touched her or whatever. Who are they going to believe? They're not going to believe the girl. How could a man of God do that to somebody so innocent? You know what I mean? That's the mindset. And it's all years and years of brainwashing in these congregations. Not all of them, but most of them, especially in the IFB.
Yeah.
Yeah, those people are weird. They're weird. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
I've met very, very few normal ones in the IFB. So, some of them have issues. They should be in the home.
I'm like, what is normal at the end of the day?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, Margaret, Is there a Facebook page or anything that people can get a hold of you or anything like that?
Yeah, totally. I am a campaign coordinator with We Warn Them now. So you can go to at We Warn Them. We are on Instagram. We're on to we talk. Our main things are Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. It's just at We Warn Them. And in the link in the bio, you can find this podcast, or you can just go to wewarnthem.org. There's a page on the website with all the episodes to the audio documentary. And then there's also other information about the troubled teen industry. We're actually adding a new page to our website. That's going to be out very soon. That's just going to be red flags. It's going to be a red flags resource for people to go to, whether that be parents or potential people that are trying to work with troubled teens. Just a resource where you can be like, okay, red flag, red flag. Yeah.
Right. Are you planning on doing any more audio documentaries about other troubled teen homes?
Yeah, I would love to. I did this whole thing with no money. I was very grateful. My editor friend Stefan, he already had the equipment and he had the knowledge, and he offered his time for free, which I will forever be grateful for. However, the next time around, and all the music also in the documentary is original music from my friends in New York City. They also offered all of their music for free, as well as my girlfriend, who offered her time. I would say if I were to do this again, I would love to have some sort of budget just to be able to pay people for their time, and to improve the quality of the overall production. So I'm trying to figure out how
there might be like grants and stuff out there,
Yeah, I'm gonna look into grants. I didn't go to school for this. I dropped out of college when I was 19. So I'm very much just learning how to do this, how to create things. So yeah, I would love to do another one. I think there's so many stories that need to be told, and honestly, I would love even for the story of Freedom Village. I think this story is not done being told. I think there's a lot of other survivors of Freedom Village that have stories to be told. I would love someday to possibly even do a visual documentary. There's a lot of archives, tapes out there. I mean, I think this could be an awesome something on Netflix, something that people watch. There's already so many stories. So if you are, a documentarist or someone listening to this podcast, let me know.
Yes, definitely.
Call to action.
Definitely. Call to action. All right, Margaret. Well, thanks for coming on. This was a wonderful conversation. It was great to talk with you.
Yeah, and thank you so much for holding space and being so consistent. I think that's so powerful. Like the body of work that you're building on your page is I really respect and admire. So thank you as well.
Like I said, I'm still a novice at this as well. I'm a musician, but I'm not. I just do this on the side. So, and I don't monetize my stuff, so the people can watch it for free. So,
yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So anyway, Margaret, thank you. Like I said, make sure to go to wewarnthem.org.
Yeah, wewarnthem.org.
Wewarnthem.org. Okay. And check out and the audio documentary. I'm going to actually tomorrow when I get to work, I'm going to put it in my headphones. I'm going to listen to the rest of it.
So. Awesome. Cool. Yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts. So feel free to, hit me up or anything.
Sure. We could do this again,
Cool.
Talk about it some more. All right, Margaret. We'll talk to you later.
All
you
right.
Have a wonderful evening. All right.
Bye.
Bye. I want to thank everybody for watching. Like I said, go to wewarnedthem.org. Check out that audio documentary. It's really great. For the Hammer Podcast, I'm Jason. You take care of yourself. You take care of each other. And we're going to see you in the next podcast. All right? Have a good evening.